Okay, peace. No, it was on. Because there's a dog that is very excited, and I don't know how well you'll be able to hear me. So this will not be very long today. Um, Before I move on to the birth story of my next child, I want to look at just how I'm going to change this. Just how the preparation, the community around me, how that affected. Oh, I really hope you will hear me and not this. But how the community that was around me before I gave birth. I talked yesterday about how it's important to protect women before conception, during conception, gestation, birth, postpartum. Um, that world that the mother is creating becomes the foundation for the child's mental health, emotional health, physical health. So I wanted to share about some resources that I received in my 20s, long before I ever had babies, which prepared me. There were places where I shared with you all that my mother had been discouraged from sharing with me, that she was ignored, dismissed, minimized, and trying to tell people what she needed from me. And so being able to be in places where uh, I could still receive the support that she was not able to give because the space to have that experience was taken from her was a very big blessing. So before I ever got married, before I ever got pregnant, there was um, there were some sisters around me who were doers who shared the business of being born, which was a really great movie in helping me think of how birth is not an illness, thinking about how um, my body knows what to do, uh, looking at how divinely orchestrated all of birth is. Um, I do not understand what this dog is saying. It could really be me. But looking at how a birth that I was able to have with little to no intervention, well, no intervention on my part, but looking at how that affects, allows the body to do what the body needs to do, both the mama's body and the baby's body, and how every step of birth and nursing brings a healing and is a process for the mother, which then, of course, in a safe and healthy environment, brings um, lots of rewards for the child. And then they just loop back on each other. So the business of being born was one thing. Um, Learning about uh, Dr. Sharifa Monroe and the international, I mean, Institute for Traditional Child for ICTC, International Community for Traditional Childbirth, which talks about Black midwifery and how that is the foundation for uh, a lot of how we understand midwifery here in this country. And I think about when my mother was a little girl, she said there was a midwife in their community, and she describes her as this Black woman dressed in all white with her medicine bag with a big old butt. She says she remembers her swishing around, and if she walked into her community as a little girl, she knew somebody was having a baby. So to be able to connect that story she told with learning of Sharif Monroe or Ina Mae Gaskin, or there's a movie, Bone Black, about Black midwifery. There's a few, so I'll put a lot of those in the comments uh, under this video. Is the ability to develop that community before I was even considering conceiving a child. Um, Shifted where I thought a baby needed to be born. All I knew was they were born in hospitals. I had heard people talk about having them at home. A friend, when she gave birth to her daughter, allowed me to come see her in her home, in her tub. All of these things prepared me. Being able to hear about the benefits of breastfeeding, not just in the nourishment of the child, which is magnificent, but in the bonding, in the baby's ability to read facial expressions, in the baby's ability to connect with the mother, to look into each other's eyes. My children used to um, well, different ones would do different things, but rub my face, play with my locks, play with my earrings, all those things. It's so intimate. And that mechanism is helping the mama to heal too. So being able to receive that support prepared me for the initiation of these books. And so in sharing this week, the main thing for me is in my own reflections, it's just looking at how important it is to make sure that mothers are supported, that they have the resources available to them, whatever it is that they choose, that they have the resources available, and what a large impact it has for a mother to have a birth story she's happy to look back on, or a birth story that brings her pain or sadness. What a shift that is. Um, Also, being in these communities and having access to this information and a shift of thought prepared me to be able to homeschool. Like it's all a continued. It all connects and continues. The community of women that shared ideas about allowing nature to progress in pregnancy, in childbirth, in infancy, in uh, rearing, choosing the healthiest options that we could choose in all ways, and things for them to play with, things for them to eat, things for them to be exposed to. Uh, Once these children that I was blessed to give birth to had a chance to move forward into educational spaces, for me, the idea of community had already been planted. The idea of doing this together had already been planted. The idea of supporting each other had already been planted. So when I decided to homeschool with other mothers, that idea had already been there. When the desire was to provide a a place where the children could support each other, that idea had already been there. And not to say that these things only originated with the knowledge that I received about midwifery and being a doula and nursing. It's just continued. It was a continuum. There were things that were planted in my childhood as a young woman that all built on each other. That when I think of the birthing communities, the nursing communities, the mothers, and their support, I can see the through line where my children are in very similar spaces, where they are being supported, where there's a collective around them. So again, protect mamas. Protect mamas. There's so much, and it's not to blame mothers. There's so much information that shares how much of our mental health, our physical health, our psychological health is based on our bodies developing in utero, coming to the world, and being in relationships. And so instead of looking at it as, um, mama's did something wrong and not a baby, I look at it as a beautiful orchestration, a majestic interconnection of what happens between mothers and children, and how everyone around that mother, father, siblings, other people in the community, the mother's parents, should be so invested in making sure that that connection, that world that is created and is the basis of so much of our existence. As an adult, I want you to think about your relationship with your mother and how does it affect you, and how has it made you who you are. Um, how has it given you examples of who you want to be or not want to be? It's very significant. So I said it was going to be quick. This is Reverend Hopo Wali Yogi Dula, Mama Sister Adi, saying, I see you. Peace.